Hi everyone, this is Ashley Holben from Mobility International USA. This is part of our series on discussing how to design international student orientations to be accessible to and inclusive of international students with disabilities and different types of disabilities. And I want to welcome our next guest presenter, Justice, on screen, who will be joining us in a moment. And while he's joining, I want to share just a bit from his bio so you can get a sense of who Justice is. Justice is a crime survivor advocate at Disability Rights Oregon. And after receiving a fellowship from the Kroc Institute at the University of Notre Dame in 2019, Justice enrolled in the International Peace Studies program, where he had a lot to fight for as a blind international student and finally conquered. And as he puts it, as part of his punctilious nature, demeanor, and experience, Justice's advocacy for equity and inclusion in schools, including student mentorship, has always been unflinching. So we're very excited to welcome Justice. And I also want to invite my colleague, Monica Malhotra, on screen as well. I know Monica and Justice have been in a conversation prior to this about Justice's experiences as an international student. So Justice, welcome. Thanks so much for joining us and for being willing to share about your experiences. And I know you've had a chance to listen to our other guest presenters, Jessica and Zainab, who is also an international student with a disability. And so maybe some of what they shared will remind you of some things from your own experience. But could you just start by saying a little bit about yourself and kind of why this topic interests you, and then go ahead and tell us what is your connection to this topic, and especially what can international student advisors at universities be doing more of to be thinking about disability access and inclusion. So I'll let you take it away from here, Justice, once you turn your sound on. Oh, can you turn your sound on first, though? There you go. Hi.
Yeah, so actually, thank you very much for having me at this point in time. Yeah, as Ashley has rightly stated, I'm Justice Chukwu. I am a Nigerian, and I moved to the US in 2019 as an international student of Masters in Global Affairs, concentration in International Peace Studies at the University of Notre Dame. Currently, I work for the Disabilities Act Oregon, as Ashley has rightly mentioned, as the Crime Survivor Project advocate. Yeah, so I'm so much happy, and thank you for this opportunity to speak based on my experiences, and also try to see if I can make one or two suggestions going forward for to make orientation more accessible for students with disabilities who are here as foreign students. Before I proceed, I would like to also acknowledge Jessica and Zainab. They have really touched almost everything. Zainab actually spoke my mind just as Jessica, and I'm so much appreciative. I would also like to start with this short experience I had with a prospective applicant at the University of Notre Dame. So I was introduced to this guy, I think, yeah, and he sent me an email asking me a question. So this very particular person had already studied, I think he had his master's degree in one of the universities in Indiana, and wanted to do his PhD. And the tone of his email was quite empathetic. Hey, Justice, please, I would like you to be honest with me. Tell me how University of Notre Dame is with respect to accessibility for people with disabilities. I am blind. I know that I have already acquired a master's degree in the US because I studied in one of the universities in India. But I would truly want to know about University of Notre Dame. How do you access your residence, that's your house, and other facilities and services on campus? I was already in the shoes, and I knew what I was experiencing at that point in time. And at the same time, I wasn't interested in trying to discourage him from coming, because then I knew that something must have been wrong somewhere. Not that the facilities or the university or US as an environment as a citadel of learning is faulty, but maybe there was some sort of miscommunication or something somewhere. So what I told him was, well, the simplest truth is that you can come over, ask questions, and when you ask, I believe you'll get more answers. I am not in that position to give you the answers that you needed. That's a summary, and I don't know how far he went. It also reminded me of one of the questions I was asked during my visa interview. Why the University of Notre Dame? Like, why the US? And one of the answers that I provided was because I would have equal opportunity and everything that I need to survive and build my career in the US. And coming to the US, the question I asked myself, having gone through this surgeon for 2 years, does it mean that there wasn't equal opportunity? And the answer I gave to myself was, there was. There was equal opportunity. There was fair treatment or equal treatment provided for everybody. But why then do we still need opportunity? I mean, to talk about having access to the school facilities, to school services, to campus resources. Why is that very important, especially for international students with disabilities? And that is why I wouldn't like to repeat what my co-presenters have already highlighted and stressed on. I'm just trying to see if I can make my own contribution from a different wing and see how that can also make sense, especially for school administrators or international office, student admissions office, etc., going forward. And at this point, I would say that it is not unusual to state that the terms equality and or equity and inclusion are referred to during orientations, right? So, but it is important to reflect on these terms and see how they impacted the choices of students with disabilities to study abroad, like myself. And I want to say that every international student with disabilities have the ability to succeed. The only reason why some are not succeeding is because they still lack the key to access a given opportunity. And this is where it gets tricky. So by opportunity, do we really mean equal or equitable opportunity? Is that what we mean for students, for international students with disabilities during orientation? And the principle of equity sometimes can be seen as equality, but I don't think they're similar. You know, so I appreciate that equality is a fundamental value, but my question is, does it mean that without equality, if if we emphasize on equality, because I know during orientation, we talk about equality of access and blah, blah, blah. My question is, does that help to build students, prepare international students with disabilities ahead of, to prepare for the task ahead, on campus? So I know that during orientation, international students with disabilities might be told that they have equal opportunity to attend classes like others, have equal access to school resources, campus services, and etc. with others, such as medical, social, and career services. Quite sure. Although equality is an important value because it ensures that students enjoys equal treatment. Like I asked the question earlier, does it mean that we can reach our highest potential simply because we have that equal treatment? So I wouldn't like to go too long, but I would proceed to say that when we talk about access, orientation, having orientation or accessible orientation, it simply means that we are paying attention to the needs of those who need it. And we actually know that the purpose of orientation is not just to tell us about America and how beautiful America is. Those ones are very good. It's also to tell us about ADA and how ADA impacts on every student with disability in the soil of America. So I never heard about ADA until I had already gone far with my study. So I think it's important to start talking about ADA from the moment a student with a disability, especially the international student with a disability, steps into the campus. And that is why I'm also talking about having a special orientation for people with disabilities who could be regarded as foreign students. Now, it's important that the orientation should be tailored in a way that serves the unique needs of international students with disabilities and helps them to pursue their goal. Because the main essence of orientation is to guide students. Education, I'm speaking based on my own experience. I know that high school might have a different, might be a different kettle of fish, but for colleges, people that are in colleges are there to really, really pursue their career and also going forward. So the question I'll ask here again is, why do we pay attention to international students? Why do we need to pay more attention to international students with disabilities? And I provided this answer that international students with disabilities go through a lot. They lack the support they enjoy from their families and communities. They are distanced from the social services which they are used to and need more than equal support to succeed. So it is still very important that as we plan to make our orientation accessible, we should bear all these things in mind. We are not just there just to participate or to attend the orientation, but ensure that we are carried along, we belong, we feel we have that sense of belonging. I mean, international students rather have that sense of belonging, and proper orientation is being conducted to make sure that they are inclusive of the entire process. So, so other recommendations that I may have at this point is that schools should improve on providing special orientation and help to international students with disabilities when they need it, and not only when they ask for it. Faculty and staff need to be oriented on the needs of students with disabilities to know how best to accompany them through their career on campus. Disability offices should work closely with campus and career services to make orientation accessible for students with disabilities. Then, to wrap up, I have a few takeaways. Although equality is an important value, student orientation should be organized with the principle of equity, because that is the key that gives access to equal opportunities on campus. Studying abroad is not just to acquire education, but mainly to have intercultural and international experiences. International students with disabilities need to be more adequately introduced to these experiences during orientation. International students with disabilities pass through a lot. They need not just equal, but mainly equitable opportunities to succeed. And again, I want to emphasize on the need to make MIUSE gain more presence in the US. Schools that have not been that are not yet affiliated to MIUSE should please find a way to get connected to MIUSE, because from what I have heard from my co-presenters, MIUSE has really been doing a lot and is still willing to do more for international students with disabilities. And I think with MIUSE, or collaborating with MIUSE, schools here in the US would not find it more difficult or challenging to cope with the needs and challenges of students with disabilities who are coming into the US to study. Again, thank you very much for having me to share my experience and my thoughts on this topic.
Thank you, Justice. This is Ashley, and I just really want to thank you so much for your candidness as well in sharing your both your personal experiences and these very much needed takeaways that you kind of gleaned over the years as a fellow. And you know, I think you drove home this difference between equality and equitability that is really important to serve as a foundation for how to proceed as far as welcoming international students with disabilities. And thanks also for plugging MIUSE. And yes, indeed, you're absolutely right. MIUSE offers a free service called the National Clearinghouse on Disability and Exchange. And it's a free service to any international student office or any US host institution that might just be seeking more information about how to welcome and include and make their programs more accessible to international students with disabilities, as well as some other audience as well. So you're absolutely right, Justice. And we definitely want to make that more visible, that service more visible to institutions so that they can be better positioned to serve their students appropriately. So really want to thank you so much again for being part of this, and really glad to have made the connection with you, and definitely hope to invite you to present more in the future, because I know you have a lot of other experiences and really a lot of expertise to share too. So anything to add to that, Monica, before we continue?
No, yeah, just thank you, Justice. And I know we talk about this topic of international student orientation as it's one event, but the impact of that week or that activity impacts the whole, you know, the long-term program for the student, as you mentioned, with connections to career services and different offices across campus, the academic department. So we want everybody to be involved in that orientation week, which can really impact the students' long-term success in the program. So thanks for bringing all those points up too.